Shields up, Iron Breakers. Rurikhan here coming at you with another video, and today we're going to be talking about Saros. This title was sent to me by PlayStation so that I could give it a look and tell you guys my opinions on it. I actually had a little bit of early access to Saros, but I really wasn't able to play it all that much because I was still going through Pragmata, which I also had a little bit of early access to, but wasn't really able to play that much because I was still going through Stories 3, which I also had early access to and wasn't really able to play that much because I was going through Neo 3. And somewhere in between that, I also played a whole bunch of Crimson Desert, as well as did a whole lot of events for Monster Hunter Wilds, because 2026 is the year that won't stop. Like, there's no breaks, bro. There is no breaks in the gaming industry. It's just like a bunch of video games, and strangely enough, that I'm mostly interested in, and I just can't catch up. It's too much. But anyways, jumping back into Saros, we actually played it yesterday on stream for the first time, and I actually had an absolute blast. Now, for those of you that don't know what Saros is all about, this is a third-person shooter that is also a bullet hell. It is structured as a roguelike, which also you have some form of permanent progression in between runs, and it is developed by Housemarque. So if you guys played Returnal, Saros feels like an evolution of Returnal, although these are two games that are different in specific ways, where I feel like there are going to be some people that are going to prefer Returnal's vibe, and there are going to be some people that are going to prefer Saros's vibe. Now, from what I've played of those two games, I feel like Saros has gripped me a little bit better than Returnal, but that's not saying much because it's not like, you know, on a scale from how much it grabbed me from 1 to 10. Like, if we were to say that Saros is like a 9, then Returnal is like an 8.5 or something like that, and how much both of these games grabbed me. I feel like Saros inches in ahead a little bit, but not by much. So that's kind of like what the game is. So let's talk about what you can expect in terms of the technical aspects of the game. I feel like the visuals are really solid, especially if you take into consideration that all of the gameplay footage you're going to be watching in this video is running on a base PlayStation 5, not a PlayStation 5 Pro. I actually was like, oh, these visuals look really good considering how smooth the game runs, because the game, from what I can tell, is running mostly at 60 FPS, except during certain pre-rendered cinematics, or I don't know if they're pre-rendered, but like during cinematic sequences, like say, oh, there's a boss fight, and they give you like a little intro of the boss fight, that is definitely not running at 60 FPS. I think those are either running at 30 or whatever. It's like sub 40 at least in terms of FPS for those little intros, which does get a little bit jarring. I guess that they're probably rendering the assets at a much higher fidelity, and because you're not in the middle of the action, it's not as big of a deal. But it does get jarring between those transitions. But other than that, when you are actually playing the game, it is super solid in terms of performance. And personally, I think that the visuals look really good. On top of that, the animation is phenomenal. I really like pretty much the way that your character shoots, the way that you dodge, the way that enemies move. All of that stuff feels really solid. You guys know that I'm big into animations. Animation's kind of like my thing. If a game doesn't have good animations, that's usually like the first thing I complain about. Not a whole lot to complain about in here when it comes to animations from the stuff that I've seen so far, which is like the first 2 bosses or so. I know I'm still fairly early on into the game, because like I said, 2026 has been absolutely hectic, so bear with me here. I'm going to be playing more of it, obviously, on stream and so on, but it actually has its hooks in me a little bit more than I expected. Now, beyond that, from an audio standpoint, I think that the audio was phenomenal. The sound of the weapons firing, the sound of the enemies firing at you, the way in which during boss fights at least, and I think even during regular fights, the music kind of adapts to what is happening on screen. Like on boss fights, this definitely happens. During the chaotic messes where there's like tons of enemies and I'm fighting tons of enemies at the same time, I have a harder time, you know, gauging as to how much the music is doing dynamic work. But during boss fights, you know, I was rewatching, like for instance, the first boss fight, and whenever he does like his sweeping bullet hell attacks, there's like guitar stuff happening, there's sounds that are happening specifically as the boss is doing stuff. When you are jumping, it also feels like it's tracking that. I don't know, it's doing something. The audio is excellent, that's what I can say. I think the voice acting's also been pretty good so far, but I haven't been paying too much attention to the story, if I'm going to be completely honest. The story hasn't really grabbed me all that much. It's been fairly basic so far. It's like, oh, there's a corporation. We want to exploit this planet. We found like this super rare resource, so we're going to send a bunch of teams down there. Uh-oh, we've lost contact with all the teams. Now we're going to send a bunch of like, you know, enforcers down there to make sure that everything's hunky-dory. And uh-oh, people are going crazy and killing each other and like, what the hell is going on? Everybody's like going insane. So that's kind of like the overarching plot, and then you're kind of jumping in there trying to figure out this big mess, and at the same time you can see that some of the people in your crew, they're losing their mind, specifically the pilot. The pilot's like gone cuckoo, okay? Straight up, I've noticed that. And, you know, as you are piecing things together, you get like these audio logs, you get like texts that give you more background info on the characters, so on and so forth. Hasn't really grabbed me all that much, but it serves the purpose that it's there for. It keeps the runs and all of that stuff going, because that's the part that I actually like. The actual gameplay, the bullet hell, seeing how much I can push myself through the gameplay itself is the thing that I personally like. So let's talk about how the gameplay works when it comes to this game. So naturally, it's a third-person shooter. You have your basic shooting. You'll also be able to alt-fire. This game actually does phenomenal use of dual sense, very much like Returnal. So like there's half trigger pulls so that you'll be able to do like your alternate fire. It's going to be like half a trigger pull on the left trigger. I know that some people are not going to like that. Me personally, I think it's fine. Usually I'll even be like shooting and then I'll just do the half trigger pull mid-shot so that it changes the stuff rather than me pressing and then shooting. Because if you press the trigger all the way, the left trigger all the way, and then you press the fire on the right trigger, that's going to actually fire off your special ability, which changes depending on which one you have equipped. But yeah, you have your shooting, you have your alternate shooting, you have your special shot. Then in terms of defenses, you have dodging and blocking and jumping. Jumping is also a defense because sometimes they'll send like these ground things that are crawling through the ground. You'll be expected to jump over those. Your dodging does have invincibility frames, but you have to time those properly. And then you have block. And I know that if you haven't played Saros at all, because I know that this was a question in my mind, it's like, why would I block? You just dodge everything, right? And, you know, I know that I'm a shield guy, and I'm like, why would I block? But it's just when you're talking about bullet hell, and you know you're not going to be able to block everything because certain shots are going to be unblockable or they're going to have a penalty for you to block, I'm just instantly thinking, and I just dodge everything. And the reason you do not dodge everything is because your shield actually absorbs power that powers up your special shot. So it's actually important for you to know the things that you can block and the things that you can't block. And interestingly enough, if you happen to be, you know, somebody who doesn't like specific colors, this game even lets you customize the colors of projectiles so that, you know, it works better for your understanding. By default, you have like some colors here that I'm going to rattle off that are the ones that are by default, but you can change all of these colors if that's something that you want to do, which was actually surprising to me. But by default, enemies, whenever they fire projectiles, it's usually either a blue projectile or a red projectile. So what happens with the blue projectile is you can actually block that one. You block that one, it's safe to block, you block it, you absorb it, and that powers up your primary weapon. Your red projectile, you want to get the hell out of dodge. You can't even dodge through it. I say get out of dodge as in get out of the way. Get out of the way of the red projectiles. Just move, just run. Okay, so red projectiles, you don't want to touch those. Then there's a specific mechanic that we'll talk about further that will enable enemies to shoot yellow projectiles. Now, yellow projectiles are a little bit more complicated because the way that they work is they hit you, and if they hit you, then you will become corrupted and you lose max health. And if you lose max health, that is going to be a problem, as you guys can imagine. But the interesting mechanic that they have with this is you lose max health, but then if you fire your special weapon, then you lose corruption. So in a way, you can like block yellow projectiles, get that health punishment, and then you can shoot your special weapon because the yellow projectiles will still charge your shield and charge your special fire. Then you can shoot that, and then you lose the curse, but you still lost the health. So it's kind of like a risk and reward type of situation. Do I need to fire off my big gun? Might as well absorb this yellow thing. Not to mention there will be points in certain boss fights and certain enemies where they will straight up fill your screen with red and yellow. And naturally, you just have to bite the bullet and block the yellow. That's just the way that it goes. You can also dodge through yellow, but sometimes it's a little bit complicated. But yeah, that's kind of like how it works. And I feel like they've done a phenomenal job at making the weapons feel different. Especially because there are, there's like a specific type of weapon, like you have your assault rifles, right? And then there's like different versions of that. And different versions of these assault rifles will actually fire a little bit differently. Then the game has an aim assist mode that helps you out significantly because, you're focusing on dodging bullet hell stuff, so it's supposed to kind of like help you out. But the game also lets you pick up certain weapons that straight up won't have that aim assist. And in return, they deal more damage. But at that point, you're going to have to be focusing on all of the bullet hell scenarios, and at the same time being able to properly aim your shots, which is a little bit more challenging, risk reward, yada yada yada. But I just really liked how different some of these weapons feel. Like there's a handgun that will ricochet, which is very useful on certain fights. Then there's a different version of that handgun which explodes, it fires explosive rounds. Also really cool. I think the explosive rounds handgun might be my favorite weapon in the game so far. Then there's a shotgun that I really don't like because you have to get really up and close and personal with the enemies. But it's very viable and it deals like a ton of incendiary damage and so on and so forth. So I like the different feel that each of these weapons has, and I think that they've done a really good job. Like I said, firing weapons in this game feels really, really good. One of the things that I almost wish we had the option to, that we might have that option, I just haven't seen it in the options, is actually having numbers for how many bullets you have left in a mag. I know that there's like an interface in the middle, but it's like it's small and I'm an old man and sometimes I have trouble keeping track of like when's the reload going to come up, which is one of the things that you'll see throughout this gameplay that I'm showing you is that I mess up the active reload system constantly. I'm terrible at it because I wish I just had numbers that would just say like, oh, 5 out of 10 bullets, Instead, we have like little squares in the screen, and I'm just like, I don't know, man. Sometimes it fires off 3 squares, sometimes it fires 4. It's weird, okay? But yeah, there's obviously an active reload system as well, as you guys will be able to tell. There's a bunch of power-ups that you will pick up during the run itself, which will power up different aspects of your character. So there is there's like, for instance, the blue one. My understanding is that improves your shield as well as the power of your special firing mode, because the shield is inexorably linked to your special firing thing. And therefore the blue one just kind of like powers up both of those things. And there's a yellow one that determines how much of the currency you accrue throughout each run, which I always try to like get as much of that as possible because I'm just a greedy goblin. And then there's another one, which is the green one that kind of like enhances your survivability, and you're like running around picking up all of these things and improving yourself during the run. Now, another interesting mechanic that they've introduced to this is that there are certain sections of the maps that are going to be closed off during daytime, and then you'll be able to activate this thing which triggers an eclipse in the world. And when you trigger the eclipse, like the monsters become more aggressive, they become able to shoot the corrupted shots, which is the yellow bubbles that I was talking about earlier. And that is going to open up additional things in the map that you'll be able to explore, and sometimes in order to progress you will be required to actually go through Eclipse in order to progress through the game. And an interesting thing is when you go into Eclipse mode, whenever you're picking up power-ups, the power-ups then get a downside. So you can get upgrades, but every single power-up that you're picking up during Eclipse also has a downgrade. So like, oh, now you take fall damage. Now I was thinking to myself, how bad can fall damage be? And then I go to the second boss fight where there's like a drop before you actually get to the boss fight, and I'm starting that fight at half health. Turns out it can be pretty bad. But yeah, there's a lot of other downsides, like, oh, if you're firing while stationary, which I have no idea why you'd ever do that in this game. But if you're firing while stationary, you deal less damage. So I'm like, I'm not going to be firing while stationary, so I'll gladly eat that one. Then there's other stuff that like removes your survivability and so on and so forth. But basically during Eclipse mode, everything becomes, a risk-reward type of decision that you have to make for your upgrades, which I found to be very interesting. So now let's talk just a little bit about boss fights to wrap things up. And boss fights was actually one of the things that I was concerned with, because I'm someone that whenever you start putting too much stuff on screen, I get like sensory overload, and I have trouble following all of the mechanics that a boss is doing. There's been several games where this has happened to me, and I'm like, I can't see, okay? There's just too much goop on screen. One of the games that I always bring up when it comes to this is a game that I really, really love. It's Remnant 2. I love Remnant 2. The final boss of Remnant 2 is miserable for me, because it's like the screen is glitching out and it goes all red, and then you get teleported, and then you get teleported back to this like red thing, and there's just like so much stuff happening, and I'm just like, bro, I can't. There's too much, right? And you look at a game like this and you're like, oh my god, Rurikhan's gonna hate this. Somehow, at least for the first two bosses, okay, these are the only ones that I can speak about. Somehow, they've done a really good job. Like, it is very, very intuitive. Like, you know, you get hit once or twice by the attacks, which is to be expected because it's like your first time there or whatever. So you get hit once or twice by the attacks, but then you can instantly start seeing the pattern. Okay, so he's going to do this, then he's going to do that, then he's going to do this other thing, and then he's going to give me an opening to use my big gun. So you kind of like, it becomes a bit of a rhythm game. You're like, dodge, dodge, jump, shoot, dodge, dodge, jump, shoot, block, block, jump, shoot. Like, you know, it becomes kind of like that. And I feel like the telegraphs on the boss fights, again, just based on the two first boss fights that I've done, the telegraphs on the boss fights are really, really good. They've done a really, really good job with it. To give you guys an idea, we got to the first boss on yesterday's stream for the first time, and we cleared it on our first try. Now, I'm not saying like, oh, I'm friggin' God Gamer Rurikhan over here. I'm just saying that, like, that is a symptom of good boss design, in my opinion, because I was able to, like, okay, I was challenged the whole way through, but I locked in and I was like, okay, I can see it's going to do this one, then it's going to do that one, then it's going to do the other one, so I have to like dodge left, dodge right, dodge forward, and then I have to do the jumping sequence, then I have to dodge on the less jumping sequence, then he's going to do the blue shots, so I'm going to be able to block, absorb, then I'm going to fire my big gun, then I'm going to be able to shoot a little bit, and, you know, I was able to figure that out very intuitively, and it was very, very satisfying. Like, when I was going through that, I was like, oh my god, this feels really good, because you do feel like you're completely in control of what is happening, and every mistake that happens is your own. So the boss fights have been really, really good. I still haven't beaten that second boss fight, but I came very, very close. And the run that you guys are watching, I came very, very close to beating that second boss fight. Besides that, the guns themselves feel great. The special powers that you get, the special fire that I keep talking about. Initially, I was kind of like weirded out. I've only tried 2 of those so far because that's what's unlocked. And the first one is just like a really big missile. It's a big missile, shoots out, does massive damage, super basic, you can understand it. The second one was a little bit more complex. Initially, I thought, oh, this is just garbage. Like, what is this thing? This stupid... It's the Dispiritor, or whatever it's called. And I was like, oh, it deals no damage, it's bad. But basically what that is like a little virus thing that you send onto enemies, and it does a little dot. And then they get infected, and then if you kill them, they explode, and a little turret comes out, and it starts shooting out more of the blue stuff that infects other enemies, and you guys get it. It's like, you know, an epidemic type of thing that starts spreading throughout the enemies. So I was using it the same way that I was using the big rockets, like, oh, big boom damage. But the idea of the Dispiritor is you actually use it on the weaker enemies. Use it on the weaker enemies, they die, they make a turret, that turret infects other weaker enemies, and you just get yourself like a big AoE explosion triggering all over the screen. Very, very satisfying. So I feel like they've done a really good job with some of the weapons, at least that I've seen so far, and I'm curious to checking out more. But I'm curious to hear from you guys. What did you guys think about it? Did you watch yesterday's stream? If you did, let me know how you felt about the gameplay. The game's going to be coming out for everyone, I think, like tomorrow. Right now, it's in early access or something like that. But, yeah, it's looking pretty good. If you like bullet hell type games, if you like Returnal, I think this is a no-brainer. If not, I would recommend watch some more gameplay, figure it out for yourself. But from a technical aspect, pretty fun. Everything's solid. From a gameplay aspect, it's pretty fun. And, yeah, that's all I can tell you guys about Saros. I'll see you guys in the next one. Stay strong, stay safe. Peace out.